Hi again. I just promised yesterday that I would do a few more quick samples, and that's what I've put together for Iron7. So that's Iron Ruby running on Windows Phone 7. I've mostly written these samples using the online editor, and then iterating backwards and forwards between the Samsung 7 I've got, the Omnia 7, and using the emulator as well. So let me just show you the scripts I put together. Yesterday I talked through the Countdown app. I then also put together, the next thing I did was something called Snow Touch. So this was based on a script from JSmenti, which is this circle script. And you can see when you run this circle script, what it does is responds to touch events, to mouse downs, by drawing circles on the screen. So what I thought I'd do was add a layer of animation to that. So the main changes from the circle script are all in this method at the bottom, which I've called on compose. It's not really a compose render time. It's actually ticked off a timer. But you can see what I do is I change the Y coordinate of each circle, and I also change the opacity of the stroke and the fill of each circle. So when I run it, you can see that what happens is you do get snowflakes or circles, and they do drop down the screen, exponentially increasing the speed, and they also fade out in a linear fashion. So that was one sample I put together. I then read a comment by the excellent Chris Hay from the I don't need AGVG, from the Cambridge.net group, and he said everyone should write a torch, so I wrote a torch. This torch, I can show you the code on the emulator, or I can show you the code on the main editor. It's probably better to show you on the main editor. It's just larger. So if I run the torch up, then you can see the code is here. So this code has a get brush, just to create a solid color brush. Creates a button. Inside each button we put a rectangle, which has the color that's passed in. And then just create the button itself. We have a create canvas, which creates the torch itself, the color in the background. We have an init method, in which we set up an array of colors. We iterate around that array to create some buttons, which all respond to the button listener. And we then add the canvas in the background. When the button listener is actually invoked, we vibrate for a very brief time. And we then also, just to give some haptic feedback to the user, and we set the color of the background. So if I run that up, then you can see when I press the buttons, the color changes. Okay, so very similar in terms of code to that. I then downloaded some sounds from Freesound, which is an excellent resource for getting small sound effects. And I downloaded two sets of sounds. One of them was a xylophone set of sounds, just a simple scale played on a child's xylophone. You can see that the code is very similar. The only thing that's really changed here is that I've also created some sound effects, and I download these as 16-bit WAV files from the Iron7 server. So obviously this won't work if you haven't got a network connection, but it does work very nicely otherwise. So let's just take that code. You can see the change to the button listener is that when the button gets hit, we play the sound. So let's play this one up as well. Xylophone. It's obviously got to be asked if you can talk to the internet. So you can see the buttons are there. They're much larger than the buttons were in the torch example. I've removed the background canvas. I hope you can hear that on this. Obviously that child's xylophone's struggling a bit on that high note, but it's okay on the others. Okay, so I did that, and just to show the flexibility of Iron7, I then also added a piano sample. I did change the way in this one that the key presses work. So this one, instead of listening for events on the button press, I actually listen for mouse events on each of the individual rectangles, which means that I can listen to mouse down and mouse move. There are still better things you could do. You could listen. You could run it on a timer, for example, or you could listen to finer events like at the touch level. So I might be looking at changing this and adding to this in future releases of Iron7. But if I just run this up, and again it's a different set, and hopefully you can hear a piano sample. There's the mouse move functionality. And it comes out with quite a pure sound. Those are the new samples. Hope you enjoy playing with them, and hope you enjoy creating your own.